What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. Moving on to number 8, the Phoenix Suns. Logan, you're up first. Are you higher or lower on the Phoenix Suns than you were to start the season?
I'm a little lower on the Suns just because I did have pretty high expectations for them coming into this year. I thought that they would dominate the regular season. Honestly, Jason, I thought you summed it up really well with the Clippers talk. Like that was what I expected out of Phoenix, for them to just dominate skill-wise. Now, obviously, it takes a while for everybody to get healthy. Brad, Beal, KD. What we've seen with the big three, I think, is encouraging. Like, they are going to be able to do that. And in a hypothetical series, that is terrifying to get matched up against, where they could just drop 120 to 130 on your head and steal a couple of games. It obviously comes down to the role players, right? And I'm not really moved enough yet to really say that I'm more confident in Phoenix. I was confident coming into this year with the role players. I thought they did the best job that they could in filling out the roster. And there's still just concerns like who is going to take – they don't feel that far away to me, I guess is what I'm saying. But all of their role players are so one-dimensional. If it's Grayson Allen, if it's Josh Okogie, whoever you point to, they are really good on one side of the ball, but they're lackluster. They just need more two-way guys. I'm not out on the Suns, but I had really, really high expectations for them in the regular season that haven't been met. And so now I'm just left with injury and depth concerns, which is kind of were my red flags at the start of the year. So I'm not out on Phoenix by any means. They are much too talented to count out, but I just haven't seen enough of it for me to be really deeply moved by Phoenix.
I'm a little bit lower on Phoenix, even though at full strength, I would say they've looked pretty similar to what I expected, because other teams have shown me more, because I have been really impressed by Minnesota and OKC and certainly the Clippers. I do think that their offense is really good. And when the big three has been out there together, it's a small sample size, only 175 minutes, but they have an offensive rating of 124. That's pretty damn good. And you just don't see teams who have three shot makers of this level, three ball handlers who are this devastating. And when you pair that with the spot-up shooting that we've seen from Grayson Allen, who has barely missed all year, and Eric Gordon, like, that's a scary offensive combination. The problem for me is the same thing that has been obvious since they put together this core. They are a low-volume three-point shooting team. They are very accurate there, but they're 23rd in threes made, which means they're not as inclined to go on those sprees like you might see from Boston. And at the same time, they're 28th in field goals made inside of 5 feet. So when you are lacking in both high-end rim pressure and you are lacking in consistent dynamic volume three-point shooting, you can have three of the most skilled mid-range shot makers in the league, but at the end of the day, you're trading tough twos when other teams are getting easier twos or they're getting good looks from three. So for a team that is so offensively slanted, that just scares me. That scares me when you're comparing it to the formula Denver has, where it's elite shooting and elite paint force. Even the formula that the Clippers have, because they have more elite three-point shooting. Because defensively, this team can only be so good. Like, they've rebounded well this year. They just have fundamental limitations there. They're 16th in defensive rating. And when you have core lineups that involve Beal and Allen and Nurk out there, I just think you can only climb so high. I think we did see an interesting look with KD at the 5. I think that'll be fun for specific matchups. It kind of gave fits to the Kings. I thought that was a bit embarrassing for Sabonis. Like, they looked quicker defensively. They doubled, they rotated well, and offensively it was awesome. It was super spread out. They had skill everywhere against some of like the really big teams who will punish them for going small like that. I don't know how viable it is for extended stretches. I think it can be a weapon. I don't think it's a fix to some of the limitations they have. So this team looks a lot like I expected, but I'm a little bit lower on them.
Yeah, I'm lower as well, just because, again, I thought they'd look like, I put in my notes, I thought they'd look like the 2022 Nets. Like, that's just what I expected. I expect them just to rack up the wins. I do want to give them some slack in the sense that the Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant combo hasn't had that much time to work together. The KD at the 5 stuff is interesting because I agree with you, Carson. I think it's very matchup specific, and I think it's a short doses thing because it depended on two things. One, Kevin Durant playing some of the best defense that you've seen from him in the last 5 years. Like, just he was so incredible defensively down the stretch of that game. And then two, there were multiple examples where Sabonis had smaller defenders on him and just didn't even look at the basket. But that's kind of like one of the advantages of that type of lineup is it's a curveball. It's an off-speed pitch. It's one you throw to disrupt the rhythm of the game, and then you bail out of it quickly. Or if there is a matchup where you have some advantage, you could stick with it. But like I use the death lineup as an example, not because I think it's as good as the death lineup. That's the greatest lineup that's ever touched a basketball court, especially when you add Kevin Durant into that mix. But it was never used to start games. It was never used as like their I mean, they used it to, I think they occasionally started Andre Iguodala in the playoffs before KD got there. But like for the most part, it was a counter that Golden State used in short doses to screw up a basketball game and then to close basketball games. And so that's kind of the way I see it. But again, like you said it perfectly, Carson. NBA history tells us teams that rely on pull-up jump shooting and don't get easy shots around the basket that also aren't great on defense typically don't win. And so that doesn't mean the Suns can't win, but through 40 games or 41 games through half the season, I certainly am lower on them than I was before the season because I was expecting more. All right, we have three more before we get out of here today. Starting with you, Carson, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Are you higher or lower on the Oklahoma City Thunder than you were to start the season?
I am definitely higher, and I would be higher on them than a team like the Suns because I think, yeah, there's obviously the playoff experience factor and the fact that the Suns have KD, Book, and Beal. But I think that SGA could easily be the best player in that series. I think that he is a dominant force, and I think that the supporting cast in OKC is excellent. I have been a big Jalen Williams guy. Oh my goodness, though, he is so good. The tear that he is on this month, I think they've played 10 games. He's shot like 65% from the field, 60% from deep, while he's giving you 21 points, 6 assists a game. Just a problem athletically, a good playmaker, a really good shooter. And I think that Chet added another dimension here in terms of dynamic play finisher, really good three-point shooter, stretch big, another guy who you trust to handle a bit, to play make, and then defensively is an awesome rim protector. The limitation they have is, experience does matter. I think that they're good enough to where they could win a first-round series just based off of talent, but making a run to the finals is like another conversation. And B, they are so slight in the front court. They're one of the weakest rebounding teams in the league. Chet is an elite rim protector. He is not a very good rebounding five, and the other dudes around him, like, they have athletic wings. They just don't have big physical wings. And so I think that as well as they may defend all around, that's going to put a bit of a ceiling on them. But I love the Thunder. I thought they would take a leap this year to be like a 48 win team, a really tough first round out. Maybe they sneak a first round series. And I think that they are clearly ahead of schedule, and the future is insanely bright. Because I mentioned the big three, but like, I love Cason Wallace. I think that they can move Josh Giddey, and I think that he has started to recuperate his value a bit because he's been playing better. He didn't look like an NBA player for like a month and a half this year. So the future is crazy bright, but they're just not quite there, really, as a matter of youth largely.